Welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Carrie Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here to answer your questions about publishing, marketing, and the business of being an author. We're so glad you joined us live. It's newshelves.com/FAF. We also do put our replays up on YouTube, so you can follow us over at New Shelves Books and get those replays as well. So we are going to just hop right in. We've got a couple of people who've emailed questions. We have questions that are being put in the chat, so we are going to do that. Let's see, we'll start with a question from Carol. Carol's question is, I want to get your opinion on the value of pre-orders and pre-sales on Amazon. And this is a good question. And unsurprisingly, to anyone who's been around Free Advice Friday for a little while, I'm going to say that depends. Depends on you and your plans. So some of the things that you might think about is if you're doing a pre-order, there's usually two really good reasons to do a pre-order. Number one, it's a book that you're putting up and you'd like to submit it for trade reviews. You're really trying to launch this book big. In that case, putting it up on pre-order makes it more real. When you're pitching places for trade reviews like Library Journal and Publishers Weekly, having your book up on pre-order makes it more legitimate and it's social proof. This is a real book. It's really coming out. So doing a pre-order when you're submitting for trade reviews can, in my opinion, kind of edge you over a little bit into getting some of that attention that you really want. Now, the other reason is because if you are trying to hit a list, we know that if you're trying to hit a list, specifically like USA Today or something like that, that the pre-orders do count on launch day. So if we're pre-ordering for 4 months, but our launch is on February 1st, all of those orders are counted on February 1st. So if you wanted to try for something like USA Today, that requires that you have to sell anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 copies in a week, which is big. And I will say most of the authors I've worked with that have gotten USA Today have got it after their book was out for a year or more. So they've built up that social credibility. But I have also worked with authors who have really used that pre-order period as a chance to market their book, get those pre-orders in the hopes of getting a USA Today bestseller. And I've seen that happen a couple times as well. So that's an option why some people might do it. The other reason you might do a pre-order is if your book is launching to a warm audience, meaning if you have a series, if you are releasing book 3 in the series and you know book 4 is going to be a rapid release coming 3 months later, you might want that book 4 up on pre-order so that you can link to in the back of book 3, you can link to the pre-order and say pre-order your book now. That's a reason why you might want to do it. And so it really depends. Now, if you are launching to a cold audience, you're not submitting for trade reviews, you're just trying to get a book up, does pre-order necessarily matter? No. And in some cases, if you don't have a reason for your pre-order, you're not doing anything with it, having a pre-order for a really long time can hurt your algorithms on places like Amazon. Not irreparably, but you kind of get this big algorithm attention boost, I'll call it, for the first 30 days, 60 days on Amazon. So if you are leaving your book up on Amazon on pre-order for a really long time and you're not doing anything with it, there's really no reason for it, that's a little bit of a wasted algorithm boost, in my opinion. But again, it really depends on why. What are your long-term goals? Because yes, we're looking at this book and this book launch, but we also want to look beyond the basic book launch and look into what are you hoping to do with your career as an author? And that's going to change everything. So I think there's pros and cons. Typically, I would say the pros outweigh the cons if you're going for some bigger goals. But if you aren't doing that, don't worry about it. I will say pre-order also is kind of nice because then you can get your book up on Amazon and get your sales links ahead of time so that you can link them to your website. You can use them in social media promotion and so on and so forth. And also it means that you're submitting your files and everything in advance and you know they're approved. So you know that come launch day, you're not going to hit the publish button and run into an error or a problem, which I have had happen. So it gives you a little bit of a planning stage. But in that sense, pre-orders don't necessarily have to be months in advance. It can be weeks. Also, if you're going to pitch the media at all, if you're going to try to line up like bookstore events or the media or anything, and you want them to happen around launch period, then it's really helpful to have your pre-order up in advance. Otherwise, you're kind of trying to hit the media and get attention as the book is out or right after, and that's a bit more of a time crunch. So those are some of the things I would be thinking about if it were me. Let's see. Let's see. All right, I'm going to hop over to a question I had from Terry. All right, Terry's question was, I have a scene in chapter 4 of my first book that I believe I must warn readers about. On the new copyright page of my book, when I re-release it with a new cover and added pages, um, I'm looking for a better, shorter statement. So essentially, we want like a trigger warning. And the suggested note is this, and then we'll give our opinion. The suggested note is this novel contains one short scene when a character, although warned by Brianna not to go out with this boy, does go out on the date. Parking in a car and slightly drunk and angry, he attempts to rape her. Yet the scene is not extremely explicit of a sexual act, but there is some violence also, which may be a trigger for some readers. So I would say that if you are going to put a trigger warning in here, so meaning this isn't really implied in the book description, this scene or this attempted rape scene is in your book, then I think we simplify it very much by saying this novel contains an attempted sexual assault scene. If this is a trigger for you, be wary or avoid chapter 4. I don't know if it's really required that they read that, if it skips over, if it's something that keeps coming up and recurring, but you have given kind of details of the characters. They don't know the characters yet. So I think I would very much simplify just to, this novel does contain an attempted sexual assault or attempted rape. Those who may, I hate to use the word triggered, but those who may be triggered, read with caution. That's kind of what I would say. I don't think you need to go into all the details. I think people are either going to be, well, I hate to say comfortable. I don't think anyone's comfortable reading that, but I think people are either going to know emotionally that they can read that or emotionally they cannot read that. And there have been some massively well-read books, really popular, award-winning, made into movies books where sexual assault is a part of the book. I think it's something that viscerally needs to be talked about more because it's more common than we like to talk about or think about. It's uncomfortable. So I think that some people are okay with that and some people aren't. And I think all you can do is give them the basic warning. I don't think you need to go into details. Now, if it was extremely explicit, I would use some kind of wording towards that. I think attempted already tells me it's probably not incredibly explicit, but again, if it is explicit, I would just specifically mention that and not go so much further than that. Hopefully that helps. And let me know what you end up doing, just because I'm curious now. All right. Let's see. Lynn is saying, if anyone is using Twitter or X as a platform, it's important to read the new terms of service. The new terms of service that Lynn's referring to, and I did have this on my list to talk about, Lynn, is the new terms of service on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, essentially gives them all rights to whatever you post on that platform to train their AI, copyright free, royalty free. They're just going to use everything you post. And so that is one of the really, really big triggers that has been popping up this week in particular. You might have seen people all of a sudden saying, I'm over on Blue Sky or I'm on Threads. And this is really a big part of why is because Twitter's new terms, which are supposed to go into effect today. Now, will there be such a big backlash that they change those terms? It's very possible. We've seen this multiple times on multiple platforms. We've seen it on ACX. We've seen it on Find Away Voices. We've seen it on social media. So will they change those terms? I don't know. It was supposed to go into effect today, I believe. But essentially it's like free reign copyright. Like they can do whatever they want with whatever you're posting on Twitter. So that means they can learn from your comments. If you're posting pieces of your writing, because I mean, obviously we're authors. If you're putting your pitches, your queries, you're putting your ideas out on Twitter, they're essentially saying they can use them. So it's one of those things. And so, yes, there's a lot of recommendations to scrub your post to deactivate or not to deactivate your account. Thank you, Lynn. Because if you deactivate your account, you're deactivating your account, but all of your information, all of your things still remain on the platform internally for them. So it is recommended that you scrub your post. Will we see a change? Will we see that kind of flip? I don't know. But I think it's something, especially as creatives, that we should be aware of. Anytime there's a grab for rights or, unpaid use of your work, I think that we should be aware of it. Yes. And that's a good point too, is Lynn saying if you deactivate your account, someone can grab your handle and then pretend you're you. It's a mess out there, people, as everyone figures out AI and copyright and the laws around everything. I think a lot of companies in kind of a bid to, and again, I'm no lawyer. I know enough to be dangerous, and I've told you guys this multiple times, but I think in a bid to protect themselves, some companies are putting out these really big blanket statements. Now, are they going to do everything they say they can do in their terms? I don't know, but they're sure putting it out there that they can in case they want to. And that's concerning. And so we have to be aware of that. We have to read those terms. We have to pay attention. We have to share things when we learn them. And so that is definitely going on. Look into it if you haven't. If I know a lot of people are moving on to Blue Sky. Blue Sky is one of those platforms that like people have joined and then not done anything with. Will it blow up now because Twitter's just digging its hole deeper and deeper? I'm sorry, X, whatever it is. Will it go away? I don't know. Will Blue Sky, be super popular? I don't know. I think we've already talked about how a lot of people are using Threads instead of Twitter anyway. And will people move to Threads? One of the things is that some people are saying, well, sure, but that means all of my social media is under Meta, which gives them a lot of power. Because then Instagram, Facebook, and Threads is all under that overhang. And so people are a little wary of that as well. I don't know that there's a right answer. You guys know this. I kind of say, do what works best for you. I think that if you're moving to Blue Sky, it's going to be an open opportunity, but will it build up? I don't know. Is it worth putting your time in there? I don't know. Do I think your readers, unless you are really heavily into the nonfiction self-help or the like politics or different things like that, do I think your readers are going to be on Blue Sky? Not really. So as far as book marketing and promotion, I don't think that Blue Sky or Twitter even anymore is really the spot to be hanging out for book promotion, but for community within the writing community and authorship, that may be. Yeah, a lot of people do like Threads. No, so advertising your book wouldn't make your book theirs because you're not putting your book up on their platform. However, any content you're sharing, not like directly there, any post you're making and things like that is more of what it's in question. Although there's also been question from artists, more specifically artists who do like music, posting videos of their music. Does it then give them rights? There's not enough information. And again, it was a big, broad statement, and that's what's made people wary of it, which is rightfully so, in my opinion. All right, let me go through here. All right, a question from Cami on Amazon ads. Cami says, I've been checking my Amazon ads and I found one in the keywords that says category. So there are keyword ads where you're using keywords, things like best book ever, fantasy, romance, those are keywords. It can also be comp authors and titles. And then there are a product sponsored ad, which is where we're using products, and that can be in categories, things like science fiction, fantasy ebooks. So it may be that. And in those products, you can not only do categories, but you can tag specific products. So you can say, I want to use the category ad and I'm going to use fantasy and sci-fi categories. Then I'm also going to add my 10 tightest comps as products. So those actual books you can add to that ad as well. So that might be what you're talking about. And as far as the click to sale ratio, those things you really have to look at because, especially if your book's on Kindle Unlimited, you have to look at, well, a number of things. We've looked at Amazon ads before, right? And I don't have an account up to show an Amazon ad right now, but the general basics of it are you getting clicks? Number one, how's your click-through rate? Because your click-through rate is telling us that where you're marketing your book is jiving with what your book looks like and the appearance of your book, not your description of your book. It is literally just saying that you're advertising to the right audience that is tempted by your cover, your title, and maybe your 150 character little blurb that you can put in there. So are you marketing to the right people? But once you get them over to your sales page, the question is your book selling itself? How about your description, description, your price, are you in KU or not? All of these kind of play into it. So when we're looking at it, we're looking at those things, but then we're also looking at how much are you paying per click? Sometimes you end up paying a lot. I will say that thrillers are really expensive per click. It is a very competitive market. Publishers, big publishers with deep pockets, tend to advertise in the thriller space. It is not unusual to see KDP recommending that in thriller categories or thriller keywords that you spend $1 to $1.50 per click. Now, when the average author who is self-published is making maybe $3 per book, you have to have really good conversion to make that work out. Or you have to be making your money back on your backlist or on a series. So those are things to consider. Some keywords will be very low, some will be high. But if you're paying a premium for keywords, you better make sure they're converting. Now, in this example, and I'm pulling up my calculator because I don't math. You guys know I don't math. So like my sweet son asking me for, I don't know if he's really asking me for help for homework, but he goes, "Hey mom, how do you multiply a decimal?" I said, "With my phone." And so that should tell you about how much I math. Can I multiply a decimal if I really had to? Yes, but again. All right, so in this example, I'm going to pull it up again. There was $53.26 spent and 73 clicks. So I'm going to take the 53.26 and divide it by 73. That means on average, the cost per click is about 73 cents, which is pretty high. So what I would be looking at is what category or what keyword you were advertising in, how much you're spending per click, and is it converting? Are you using, I don't know, are you using 10 categories and you're getting 50 clicks in one category and no sales, but you got 3 clicks in another category and got sales? That's what we want to look at to kind of cull and refine our ads, is look at what's already getting clicks, what's gotten more than 20, 25 clicks and no action. Well, then we either want to bring that cost down probably, or we want to stop it if it's not a really great comp. In some cases, you'll be like, well, I got a lot of clicks and I got some orders. So it's really a case of like, hey, it's converting okay, but the cost to advertise is just so high. Because again, at 73 cents, if we've got 73 cents and our goal, I mean, premium kind of ads, if our first goal, I always say, is 1 sale and 20 clicks. And then we want to work that down to closer to 1 in 10. 1 in 10 is like a pretty darn good ad, especially if you have a backlist to sell. So if we are looking at that saying, well, it's going to take me 10 clicks to sell this book, that's $7.30. Well, if the author only makes $3 on that book, they're in the red there. Now, if they have a really high conversion and they tend to sell 5 more books, I'd be looking at, okay, well, if you get them onto book 1, how much do you typically make on the entire series if they read through? And then I would be considering that. But if your conversion from book one to book two or book three, or it's a standalone book, if it's not high, then you have to reconsider. Sometimes that means that it's not worth advertising on that space. Sometimes you're advertising simply because you need the eyes on your book, but it's not a long-term strategy. You might need to look at your sales page. Does your description work? Is the pricing right? You may try saying, okay, well, this is really expensive. Let me go over to Facebook. I'm going to go to Facebook and see if I can spend $2 a day and what that gets me. And maybe you'll get better responses over at Facebook for $2 a day than you're getting on Amazon for $10 a day. And that ratio equals out. There's simply no one size fits all. And sometimes you have to spend money to make money. Sometimes you have to lose money on book one to make money on your series. And I see this an awful lot, which is why I've said it's very hard to make money on one book. If your ads are paying for themselves on one book, then you're doing pretty well, to be honest. So I think it's one of those things you have to look at is it worth it for you? And look at those individual categories and keywords. Is there dead weight? Is there things that you're spending money on that are not converting? And then maybe you have a couple that you're not spending as much on, but they're converting. Keep those running and get rid of the dead weight and kind of see what that is. And all of these are going to be in your ad dashboard. And also, I think it's important to look at not only what the ad dashboard tells you, the ad dashboard reporting is helpful, but if you're doing no other advertising and you're seeing increased sales overall, it's a correlation probably to your ads. So we can't just look at what's happening in the ad dashboard. We have to look at your overall sales. Are your overall sales higher when you run ads? Is your overall royalty higher than your ad spend? These are things we have to look at. And not only do I think that, a lot of people in the industry think that, but I recently, I work with a couple of authors running their ads. And this one author, we've worked together for many years. I'd say probably 5 years now. And I've been running her ads for a long time. And her ad account is robust enough that she was invited by Amazon to have a talk with them and have them look at her ads and stuff like that. And she was like, look, I don't know anything about this, but do you want the call? And I was like, sure, I'm not opposed to getting information or learning. Like, teach me, Amazon, what you got? And so I got on a call with this ad person and we're going through it. And he was like, I really would like to tell you something that you can do, but you're already looking at all the things I'm looking at. Um, and one of the things he specifically pointed out was that you have to look beyond just the clicks and the buys. You have to look at the overall royalty, especially for a self-published author who has that ability. Look at the big picture, look at each element, but look at the big picture. Because so often, if we look at individual pieces of our business, we think, oh, that's not worth it. But it is when you look big picture. On my website, guys, I have so many free assets, things I've spent time or money or expertise on that I give away for free. Well, business sense, people are saying, well, that's not worth it. Why would you give it away for free? Well, because it helps build my, my presence online. It helps build trust with me and people so that when it's time to work together, they're willing to do that. So it's a big picture plan. And we have to look at our books like that, even though it's on a smaller level, I guess there. There was something in the chat, but it was a little long. Let's see if I can pull it up. Whoops, my chat don't, I can speak proper English. My chat doesn't want to behave. All right, I'm writing my first book, which contains marketing rules for small businesses coming from a big study. To make it easier to read, I am quoting examples of companies that did it wrong, but I am confused on how to go about this without getting sued. Would using examples from big sources, for example, Harvard Business Review, save my day? Or do I need to contact a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer. I cannot give legal advice about what will or not get you sued. If you are concerned, I would absolutely contact a lawyer to get that information. I do think that if you are talking about businesses and what they did wrong, there is potential for concern. If you are quoting different studies and things, that might help you. But again, anytime you're essentially saying the negative things that people do, that would give me cause for concern. I would maybe consider finding companies that did things really well or really right and highlighting those. Those companies would probably be happy to be in your book. But when you're looking at the wrong, not only does that, you know me, I got to put my thoughts together so that they come out of my mouth right. Not only does that, in my opinion, my unlegal, lawyerly opinion, mean that there could be some cause for concern, as you've already mentioned, but I think it also brings a negative connotation to the book that we don't need to look at the negative to teach people. Now, of course, we look at the negative and positive. Of course, we do. But I would be a little careful about that when you're looking. Now, you could maybe, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but you could maybe say, this is what a company did wrong, and then here's how they fixed it and did it right. That might have potential, but that's something I would definitely, if you have concerns, talk to a lawyer about. Because again, I'm not a lawyer and I can't give that advice. Oh, does the USA Today New York Times book list based solely on sales? No. USA Today is based solely on sales. It's based on sales in a week from Monday into Sunday of the following week. Typically, you have to have anywhere from 3 to 5,000 sales in order to hit that list. They consider ebook and paperbacks in their overall numbers. So they do, well, print books and ebooks is what they consider. So they do look at those. You do have to have, I believe it's, there's been some back and forth on whether it's 10% of your sales have to come outside of Amazon or if it's at least 500 of your sales. I've heard both things, honestly, and I can't find anything that says exactly that. I'm going to guess that 10% is roughly 500, and that might be where that came from. But anyway, USA Today is more based on sales. However, USA Today did kind of go on hiatus for a little bit. And when it came back, it has been noted that indie books are making the list less and less. So, what that says, I don't know. I don't work there. I don't look at the data, but I think that's interesting to kind of look at and think about. New York Times is a curated list. It's literally gone to court that it's an opinion-based list. So it's a curated opinion-based list, and they can make whoever a bestseller that they feel is a bestseller. Now, in that same vein, if they start putting people on the bestseller list that have sold 2 books, then their integrity will be questioned, but also the legitimateness of their list will be put into question. So they have a formula that they use that they have never outright told anyone. However, generally speaking, from a lot of research and talking to people who've made the list and people who are in that sphere, the New York Times bestseller list is based on sales, it's based on media attention, and then it's curated from there. So it's okay, who are people talking about? What's making the news? What is kind of showing up in social media? What is getting a lot of SEO this week, this month? It's based on sales as well, and then it's curated from there. And so that has probably been something largely contested, largely talked about more and more, is that New York Times is not based simply on merit. It's curated. And so can they play favorites? It's curated. They can. Again, it literally, it's been some time, I believe it was in the 80s when they went to court because someone tried to sue them because they didn't make the person suing them didn't make the list. And they're like, I obviously had the most sales, so why didn't I make the list? And New York Times won because they're like, it's a curated list. It's a opinion-based list. And you can't sue someone for their opinion, as far as I know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but New York Times won that one. And so yeah, that is what it is. And so when people say they want to make the New York Times, awesome, have that big dream, but also know it's not as simple as if I sell X number of copies of books, it will get me on the list. Sometimes they count bulk sales to like a school or bulk sales to a company. Sometimes they count them, sometimes they don't. It's up to the curation team to do that. So lots of different things that go into that. Um, yeah, so but sales are definitely a part of it. Sales are always a part of that, as it should be. Let's see. All right. I didn't forget you, Diana. Let's see. A couple of questions. We plan to have an ARC team to kick off our marketing, but we are just learning how this works. Whoops. I think my screen froze. It did. Hang on. All right. There we go. I think. Again, hotel Wi-Fi. Love it, but it's got a little bit to be desired. All right, sorry about that. We'll start over. We plan to have an ARC team to kick off our marketing, but we're just learning how this works. So a couple of questions. Is it a violation of Amazon rules to give people a copy of the book as part of our ARC team with the request that they leave a review on Amazon and on Goodreads on the launch date? You had a very important word in there, and the word is request. You are welcome to give away free copies of your book and say, I'd love to read your review online. Please leave a review if you feel you're able. What you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to say, I'll give you a copy of the book if you leave a review on Amazon. You are not allowed to in any way pay for a review, and that is considered if you give a book and require a review, that's considered payment for the review. So you cannot do that. You cannot say if, hey team, we're giving this book away, and then anyone who leaves a review is going to be put into a drawing to win a gift card. Have I seen this done? Yes, I have. Is it against the terms? Yes, it is. So I'm going to just say that. So you cannot require or pay for a review on Amazon. You are able to give out as many copies of your book as you'd like and request, encourage, but not require reviews. See, when giving ARC reader copies, do people usually share via ebooks, PDFs, or hard copies? Any advice on which is best? I personally love to use BookFunnel for ARC copies or any type of free copies that I'm giving out. BookFunnel is that if you are doing it just the basic, it's $100 in order to be able to collect email addresses and information of who is downloading your book. $150 this is per year, by the way, $150 if you are then taking those people's information, integrating it into your mailing list like MailChimp or something and having them upload it directly. So I love MailChimp for many reasons, including building your email list, but ARCS is another one because you can track who's downloaded. You can give a copy that's only downloadable by a certain person. You can assign it with a code, or you can just give them a link that requires them to give their name and email address in order to download the advanced copy of the book. And it does allow you to upload both a PDF and ebook. So then it does some of your customer service in the sense that it says, hey, how do you like to read your book? Oh, you want a PDF? Great. Click this button. And then they deliver it and they say, here's how you read it. Oh, you're reading on a Kindle? Great. Here's your ebook. This is how you read it. And they take care of it for you. So digital is by far the cheapest. I do think it's also the easiest. But if you have a ARC reader who you really, who requests a print book, you think will do, like social media and things outside of just leaving a review, or someone that needs an accommodation for some reason, I would typically have a certain number of print copies to give away, even if you didn't advertise. If you said we'll be giving away, ebook ARCs, and then someone specifically asks if you have a print book, I would have some copies available. I'm talking maybe 5 to 10, but it also depends on the size of your ARC team. I typically, if you're going for an endorsement or a review, meaning a trade review, a big endorsement from a big name, I always offer print or digital, so they have their option. But if it's a general ARC team, I wouldn't so much offer the printed book unless someone specifically asked for it, in my personal experience and opinion. Are there any services to help manage distribution to ARC readers that you can suggest? Yes, there are a couple of companies that do this. Book Sirens is one that does this. I think Booksprout might do it as well. So there are a couple of companies that manage the distribution. If that makes your life easier, that can be a great opportunity. In some cases, they can help you find ARC readers, but they definitely help with the distribution. I, I don't know that Hidden Gems does that. They might. You can check into them. So that's an option to kind of look into. I will say with BookFunnel, it is so, so easy in the sense that you create a link. You can put a limit, I've got 20 ARC readers. I'm going to put a limit that only 25 people can download the book from this link. You send them the link. BookFunnel pretty much does everything for you once you set up your landing page. And then you just follow up with email and say, hey, if you loved it, we'd love to hear your review. So it's not as intimidating as you might think. Having that BookFunnel link does make it much more simple. But if it's overwhelming to you, like I said, Book Sirens, maybe Hidden Gems, Booksprout. And then, of course, there are bigger companies like NetGalley, which do come at a premium, but they're very well known. They help you find ARCs and can also, help you give your ARC copies out to your list as well. Can people leave a review on Amazon even if they do not buy the book? Fun fact, they sure can. The book must be live on Amazon, not for pre-order. It must be live and for sale. So they cannot leave a review until pub day, but they can leave a review even if they don't buy the book on Amazon. There are some rules around that. The person leaving a review must have an account in good standing, meaning they must have an account that's not flagged for any issues, and they must have spent at least $50 in products in the last year. So not subscriptions, not Kindle Unlimited, not, Prime, $50 in product in the last year. As long as they have met those two criteria, they should be able to leave a book review for your book, even if they do not have if they haven't purchased the book on there. The things you do want to avoid, it used to be encouraged that you would say something like, I was given a copy of this book for review or something like that. That is now getting flagged by Amazon. So I would just leave that part off personally and not mention it. I would just, leave that off. You can say this review is my own or the opinions are my own, something like that, but I wouldn't necessarily say I was given a copy of this book for review. The other things is you want to ask your reviewers not to mention you personally. If I say, my best friend Sarah wrote this book and I think it's the best thing ever, those kinds of things do get reported. They do get tripped up on the Amazon algorithms and it can get your reviews taken down. So you don't want to do that. Also know if tons of people are going and leaving reviews for your book when the book comes out and no one has bought the book, there's no pre-orders, there's no orders of this book, and yet there's like 100 people trying to leave reviews, Amazon may flag that as a potential problem because while you don't have to buy the book in order to leave a review, if there are a lot of reviews and no sales, the algorithms are confused. They're like, well, this book seems popular because it's getting reviewed, but no one's read the darn thing. So that may pull up some questions. And I am going to drop in the chat, and for anyone who's watching on Facebook or the replay, if you go to the New Shelves Books YouTube, literally just youtube.com/New Shelves Books. I have a video on there. If you search for Amazon review, I have a video on there for Amazon reviews specifically. This can be shared with ARC teams. It can be shared with reviewers. It literally takes you screen by screen on how to leave a review and the rules of leaving a review and what things to avoid, like saying, oh, my baby wrote this book and it's the best. So you can feel free to share that if you wish. And then another question here. Some people mark books as ARC copies, not for sale. Is this advisable? Yeah, I mean, I'd say generally if you're going to print copies of your review, a reason why a lot of people do that, they'll put ARC copies not for sale, is because in many cases, if you're printing reader copies in advance, it's not the final proofed version. So a reason why many people do that is so that that copy doesn't go out on, for sale somewhere. And then people say, what the heck? This has a different ending than that book, or this has typos all in it. The reason why they do that is to kind of say, hey guys, this is not the finished product. So, bookstores aren't going to carry it on accident and that kind of thing. So I think watermarking your files or putting ARC copies sticker or on your book cover can be smart if you're doing it so far in advance that you might make changes. Now, if this is your final copy and you're giving these things out a week before launch, I wouldn't worry about it. Let's see. Number two, what is the process for giving away books on Amazon? Won't Amazon always charge something even if we do not take any sales commission on the books, even for ebooks? Yes. So giving away books on Amazon, you can gift books, which is literally where you're paying to send a book to someone. So you can do that. If you're on Kindle Unlimited, you can run a free promotion. If your book's in Kindle Select or Kindle Unlimited, it means your ebook is exclusive to Amazon. So you can't sell it anywhere else. If you are doing that, then you do have access to free days on Amazon, meaning your ebook can be set for free for up to 5 days per 90-day contract period. So you can set your book for free for one day and then tell your ARC team, hey, everybody, it's free, but only for today. Go download it from Amazon. I have authors who do that, so you can do that. If your book is not in Kindle Select, you can still technically make your book free, but it's like on the goodness of Amazon. They don't have to make your book free. You can request it as to then be set free for other platforms. If it's a BookBub promotion, if it's a big promotion, that's worth doing. If it's just you wanting to get it to your ARC readers, go with BookFunnel instead. Much less complicated. And then, of course, your book's not set for free on the sales platforms. So I would think about that. Okay. All right. We've got a question from Denise. If your audiobook is on Findaway, how does Chirp work? Yes. So Findaway Voices is kind of how we go wide with audiobooks. It's not the only way to go wide, but it's one of the easiest. Findaway Voices is a sister company to Draft to Digital, so their platforms are very similar. Findaway Voices is now owned by Spotify, and so just good to know. On Findaway Voices, if you upload your book to Findaway Voices, one of their distribution channels is called Chirp Books. Chirp's Books is a sales platform. You can buy books at whole cost, normal price, but also Chirp Books is owned by BookBub. And so it acts like BookBub for audiobooks. So it's kind of like this weird web of Chirp Books is a sales platform, but also they are connected to BookBub. So you can submit through BookBub for a Chirp deal. A Chirp deal is where you're going to offer your audiobook at a discount. And it can be discounted from $4.99 down. And you submit just like you do for a BookBub, and you say, yep, I agree to sell my book at a discounted price. What's kind of nice about this is Chirp Books and Findaway Voices work together. So if Chirp says, yeah, we like this audiobook, we're going to sell it in November for $2.99. You just have to say, yes, I accept. And then Chirp and Findaway work together. Findaway allows Chirp Books, which is a sales platform, to discount your book on Chirp only, to discount your book so that they can then promote it out. And so that way, Chirp then discounts your book on Chirp Books for that price. They put out a discount deal, and then they push it out to their big list that's much like BookBub, but for audiobooks, and they promote your discount book. And you can get lots of sales and downloads from this way. And at the moment, Chirp Books does not cost anything. BookBub, if you get chosen, you have to pay an advertising fee. Chirp Books, at the moment, you do not have to pay an advertising fee, but they do, you have to take a lower royalty, essentially, is what it is. So Chirp Books is earning a little bit more of your royalty on a lower price, and you just make a lot of sales, but at a lower price. But a lot of sales. I'm talking most of the time, I'm seeing anywhere from 800 to 2,000 audiobooks sold in a month, which is a lot. And again, if it's a lead into a series, you have a backlist, something like that, that can be an amazing opportunity. So that is how Chirp works. You get your book available from audiobook distribution. Findaway is one of those. And then you submit your book for a Chirp deal through BookBub. If Chirp discounts your book, then they promote it and send it out that way. If your audiobook is exclusive through ACX, you cannot be a part of Chirp Books. Audible will only get your book up on, or I'm sorry, ACX exclusive only get your book up on Audible and iTunes. So that makes Chirp Books outside of what you're allowed to do with the permissions you've agreed with ACX. An ARC team, Mark. It's ARC. It stands for Advanced Reader Copy. So it's an advanced reader team. These are people you're sending out advanced reader copies of your book so they can read it and review it when the book comes out. They are your hype people. They are your people who want to read copies of your book in advance and be some of the first to read it and then also the first to review it. And sometimes you'll have like a lot of ARC people. Sometimes you got to cut it off. You're like, hey, I've got a lot. Sometimes it takes time to build up an ARC team, but it is kind of, they're your hype people who are just so excited to read your book that if you are willing to give them a free copy to read in advance, they want to be your cheerleaders and help post reviews and things like that for you. All right. Well, I think I answered all of the questions we have for today, and I think that's a good spot to stop for today. We will be back next week. I keep thinking next week is Thanksgiving. It's not. So we will be back next week for Free Advice Friday. If you have questions and you want them answered, you think of something over the weekend, just email it into info@newshelves.com and we will put it aside for next week and get that answered for you. And you can, of course, always come back, join us live at newshelves.com/FAF and ask your questions live. If you cannot make it live, email in your questions, watch the replay. We'll make sure we get that to you. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.